Welcome to another episode of Out of the Blank podcast. I'm here with Jay Mooers and his friend, I would say.
Hey, I'm Simon. I'm basically the star of everything. I'm the guy you need to know.
So Jay,
Yeah, I see you looking at me.
Tell me a little bit about yourself, or Simon. What are you even? First of all, are you like an owl mixed with like a giant? I would say.
Well, I'm basically the coolest thing around. I am a woodland monster. I guess you could say I was a bit of a like a tree monster, I guess would be the closest way to put it. I hide in the trees, I can control the trees, I can get people lost in the woods. It's a lot of fun.
So who would win in a fight? You or Mothman?
Oh, I'd win.
Yeah, I'm about to say if you can control the trees, I think he's just popular only to be popular. I don't really see anything super special about
Oh,
him.
totally. I mean, I just, as soon as he wanders into the woods, he's just good as gone. So
So Jay, when you're obviously
I'll let Jay take over. I'm gonna hang
yeah,
out up here on his table.
yeah, just look pretty in the background.
Yeah, here I am.
Now, Jay, I think everybody else can kind of tell you're an artist.
Yes,
So
yes. Writer, artist. I guess a storyteller.
Okay, so when it comes to storytelling art, which one do you find the most
Uh-oh.
interest in? Is it just comic
I don't know if
books?
you can see me, but
So when it comes to art and you're saying writing, storytelling, all these other types of things, where's the fascination lead and how does storytelling evolve into your art? Because I am a man that has a fascination for Dungeons and Dragons only on the aspect of one thing is the storytelling process that goes
yep.
behind it.
Well,
That is
honestly,
amazing.
my storytelling started with D&D. Actually, I in high school, I remember I was dungeon master for a lot of different people, a lot of different campaigns, and I basically kind of created my own world, my own invasion from another world kind of thing. So yeah, I totally understand the D&D thing. That's definitely one of my major launching off points.
I mean, even when it comes to the fact of why D&D became so popular, why even art seems like it's making a giant revamp right now. Like it seems like it's really becoming super popular. A lot of people are using it as a form of expression and creativity because we haven't used creativity in a very long time. A lot of people kind of put it to the wayside. I mean, even in school, art class wasn't, super a mandatory thing. I think it should be more expressed too, because now we're seeing like millennial generations, what they call like in touch with their emotions. They're also finding ways to express themselves in amazing things with creations. And in society, we lost the fact of creativity with wearing different bright colors to just wearing brands. We all care about the brand and not what that color or what that shirt design is. Doesn't matter if it's like an off brand or something. I've seen clothing that is off brand or whatever you want to call it, not the major Nike or Adidas or whatever you want to wear. Some of the
Yeah.
most amazing designs on them. I've seen people that are like yourself, artists that create their own designs and shirts that barely even like, I'm like, why haven't I found this earlier? Like where was this hiding my whole entire life?
Well, I think one thing that's really happening, like universally, is that all these different art sources are much more attainable. There was a time when, like, if you wanted a book published, you would have to get a publisher to publish it, And nowadays, with everything digital and being able to print your own stuff and getting it out there, it's really made it so that anybody can get anything they want out there. Same thing with social media, with videos, podcasts. I mean, basically, people that weren't able to get into the niche market can now create their own niche market.
And it seems like for so long it was taught that if you wanted to be an artist, you're not going to have a good living. You're not going to have, sustainable income and all these other types of things. I'm like, not true. There was a guy that put duct tape on a banana and got paid a lot of money for that little simple piece of art,
Yes, he
which
did.
it that does kind of piss me off.
And here we are talking about it. So
Yeah,
see, it's already successful.
it does kind of piss me off that the fact that he did that and got that. But at the same time, I look at like people like you, for instance. Like I came across your art through Jeff Levine from Silk City. Now,
Yep.
what's your connection with that? Do you draw a lot of the art that's on his hot sauces?
I actually, the first one I did for him was very recent. I'm sure you saw it, the Dragon Slayer sauce.
Yes.
I just designed that for him. I'm now designing 3 other labels for him. So apparently he liked it.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what I always tell him about, like, the appearance of his bottles, the way the designs, everything that's kind
Yes.
of on it. That's what really brings in people's attention too. And I mean, like I've tried to suggest for other people when they come to advertisement, they just have a plain bottle. I'm like, find an artist, find somebody who's like you, that art you connect with. I mean, when did you
Right.
find your style, and how were you able to, I guess, replicate it and turn it into like a living?
Well, I think uh, anybody that draws a lot, you do develop a style. Even if you're trying not to, even people that try to do things the same as somebody else, I can look at the two things next to each other and you can see the difference. That's part of being an artist. I mean, you can be a what I call like a drawer, somebody who just duplicates
Yeah,
something drawing,
that's me.
but then adding that level of creativity to it, adding your own thing to it is what kind of makes it unique. Yeah, and as far as like the hot sauces go, like I met him years ago at a convention, and you know, apparently, I mean, I remembered his sauces. I remember seeing the different art on the bottles and stuff, and he remembered my artwork. So all of a sudden, he reached out to me a couple of years later and was like, "I want to do this, and I want you to do it," and it just worked.
And I mean, I was looking at your art and I messaged you. I was like, you have some kick ass stuff. Is because I love it when you ask somebody what this means to you, or what this, like, what's the first image that pops into your head. Immediately when I saw your stuff, I was like, comics, comics. Like, this is all, like, I just got the inner nerd that kind of came out of me, was like, I want to see all this in a comic book. At one point, have you tried doing a comic book, man?
I actually had about 8 years ago, I launched my first comic. I didn't collect comics before that. I did children's books, novel covers, portraits, murals, that kind of stuff. And I had a novel I was working on, and it got out of hand. I lost track of what I had thought about writing and what I'd actually written, and I was somewhere in the 500-600 page world. And I was like, oh, I don't have time to reread this and try to figure out where I am. So I was planning on throwing in lots of pictures because I'm an artist. And I just decided, what the heck, I'm going to make this into a comic. I could break it down into. I ended up breaking it into 30. Usual comics are like somewhere between 20 and 24 pages.
Yeah.
I broke it down into 36-page comics, and I broke down the whole novel into a series of 10 comics. Um, and right now I actually just released 8, so I'm 2 away from finishing the story, which is pretty exciting.
I mean,
um
do you ever like get like, I know we talk about like maybe I know people always bring up like fact writer's block or something, but like what I give artists credit for is the fact of being able to complete something. Being able to start that process. I mean, how many times are you sitting there drawing something and then halfway through you're like, I don't want to do this right now. This is
i
a
could
lot
i
for
could
me.
turn the camera to my bookshelf and show you 2 full rows of stories that are not complete. The things that I just, in binders and folders and sketchbooks, and I'm just like, I'll get to that someday, or maybe I won't. But picking out the flavor, things I want to work on, and then I keep coming up with more. But yeah, this one comic series, I mean, it's changed a lot. When I first started it, it was my first comic ever. In fact, the puppet is actually from that comic series.
I'll have to make sure.
Um,
I have to make sure to get that comic series. I mean, where did you even get the inspiration for that idea for like that puppet, for instance? Like, where did you come up with a woodland monster that is able to control trees and obviously can beat up the Mothman in a fight? I don't even know why I even asked them that question.
why even ask that? I mean, he is made of fabric, so that would be a little bit of a dangerous thing for him. But but he most of my ideas, like, I'll just be daydreaming, or I'll just wake up and I'll have some kernel, and then say I'm in the car, stuck in traffic, and I'll just start developing that kernel into, like, all right, like in this story, my idea was that there are fairies and monsters hiding in the woods, and they don't want to be found, and that's kind of what I was starting with, and then it turned into this whole like urban fantasy tale about about how they're hiding here. Their own kind is hunting them because they're not supposed to be here anymore. Like they used to exist with us back in medieval times, and then there was like a coup in the power in their own world, and the rules changed, and they ended up going into hiding and exile, and so it kind of developed from there. And then I started thinking, well, what happens to the people that live near this, aren't even aware of what's going on, and how does it affect them? And that's kind of how the story started to develop.
Sounds a lot like the movie The Village, where all the people are like a couple miles away from town and they think they're all secluded.
Well, the fairies know the people are there. Fairies and monsters and such know the people are there. Some of them, to pass their time, have learned how to become imaginary friends, or be able to disguise as people and kind of intermingle with the town a little bit, but they kind of stay to themselves. But then the main plot point is Simon is actually sent by the forces that be to eliminate them.
So he's not actually a good guy.
Oh no, he's the best guy if you ask him.
That's what I'm. Well, see, like you look at him, people are like, yeah, why wouldn't you consider him like a evil guy? He looks evil. I'm like, yeah, but sometimes like some the nastiest creatures end up being like the nicest. Like there was
Well,
one of my old favorite TV shows, Courage the Cowardly Dog, the eel in the bathtub. He didn't look appealing at all, but he gave the best life advice I've ever heard in my entire life.
yeah, I forgot about that eel. Yeah, well, it depends on your viewpoint. There are certain reasons in the story that it's good that they're being hunted down and being eliminated. Basically, when they're eliminated, they're basically cast back to their home world. So they're not killed; they're basically sent back.
Okay,
But
like kind of like in Little Nicky, where if you died, you went right to hell, and he would just go right back onto Earth again.
yeah, except they can't get right back on Earth, onto Earth again. They In this story, they go into what they consider purgatory, and for fairies and monsters, the worst thing is to have nothing to do.
Yeah.
They're always mischievous. They're always doing stuff, and so purgatory is basically it's basically their prison. They sit there, have in darkness, and have to wait until the powers that be decide, all right, you can come back in now and join us.
Yeah, you got about
So
30 more minutes on the microwave until you can come back onto the
yeah,
field.
yeah. And when you're watching that clock,
Would you consider that your fascination is more with like the medieval style stuff? I think that's why I also love Dungeons and Dragons, was like just that old fantasy, the old school ancient history. It's why I love Assassin's Creed, the video game,
yeah,
so much, is
yeah,
because it takes place in that time period, swords. And it's like nowadays everything comic wise is so new, so like I won't even play the new Call of Duty because you get jetpacks and the zombies have jetpacks. I'm like, can I just
yeah.
get
I
the
like the games
classic
that
ones?
like the ones that give you like the vintage, like the old like biplanes and and
Yeah,
and, and or maybe like the old blunderbusses and stuff like
yeah.
that. Yeah, I'm definitely more of like a more of a D&D side of things. I do a lot more probably fantasy than I do other stuff, but I do a lot of comic work. Um, so basically with my comic, I started. It was the first comic I ever did, and then people started hiring me for other comic projects. So by the time I've gotten to comic 8, I've probably done about 30, 40 comics.
Now, would you consider that most of it would be like you, I guess, like, do people ever reach out and want you to draw instead of just
Yes.
doing the writing aspect of things? Like, it seems like
Right.
like from my kind of like interpretation here is that you love doing more of the storytelling and the writing aspect rather than doing the actual drawing and the physical stuff too. I mean, I mean, you could still do it obviously, but the whole factor of like you like creating your own story in your head, that image. That's the same thing for me. Like
Right.
I can think of a story in my head, like you're talking about when you're going driving or something, you get an image that pops in your head. I mean, I get those sometimes. I have to pull over the car and just write it down or something, or save
Yep.
a
That's
note
what I
into
do.
my
I always
phone.
have my little notebook with me.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like it's funner to create the story, and then when you're like drawing it, like I never understood, like you were saying, the people that draw, that just do the drawing part aspect of things, like the guy who does all the illustrations for comics. I'm like, I just feel like that'd be so difficult because I didn't think of it, and it's like I'm doing commission work, which I feel like for
Well,
a lot of artists, that's the toughest thing is doing commissions.
in comics, like I've worked with people that are very stickler to this is a script. You have to do this exactly the way it is in the script. I don't want any interpretation, but I don't work with people like that anymore. If people do hire me to work on their comics, they're hiring me because they like what I do, and they want me to do what I do with their guidelines.
Yeah.
Like the looser the script, I think the more fun it is. Like give me your concept, give me what you want to happen, you know, even dialogue, or we can work on the dialogue as we go together. But let's combine our thought process in the development of the story. I'll work on the visuals, and you know you're
Well,
working
be
on the
you.
story.
That's the thing. Be you. Like if I gave a script to you, I would do the same thing I do when I'm at Chipotle or I'm at if yeah, let's use Chipotle for example. I just tell the guy, make it how you would eat it, make it how you would want it. He's like, you're gonna put that trust into me. I'm like, you're gonna make it taste good. You know
Right,
what's good. You know what's gonna work. It's like
right.
when you're getting a tattoo, you have an idea, and then you're going to that artist to get their style. If you sit there
Yes,
and say,
exactly.
I want exactly this, I want exactly that. Okay, they
Right.
still did the
And
tattoo.
I've done those projects. I've suffered like a project that would probably take a month. That's taken me half a year because I feel constricted. I'm not motivated because I don't have the creativity I want to have in it.
It's more like work rather than fun.
Right. And it can be both. I mean, I want it to be both. I like it when a writer pushes me out of my comfort zone, but I want to be able to be creative too.
So what's out of your comfort zone?
Well, I mean, I have not done a lot of like stuff that takes place in cities or high tech stuff. I've done a bunch of steampunk now, which is definitely in that direction. But like I haven't done like I haven't done mainstream comic stuff. I mean, I've done Red Sonja, Vampirella,
Well,
more
drawing
the
a
fan more.
phaser cannon is a lot different than drawing like an actual war cannon.
Yes, yes,
Yeah, that's how I kind of am too. Like I can easily draw like I guess the basic stuff. I would say that's just. I mean, it's not easy in any way, depending on how you're drawing it. But it's more the factor of like just the stuff without all the tech and the gadgets and the color. Like you gotta, the lasers and all this type of stuff. Like I see like people that are drawing like sci-fi fantasy novels and stuff and all these really like extreme detailed and lined up stuff. I'm like, I'm good with drawing like a classic drawbridge, a knight,
right,
stuff that's like, not too, but it's for me, like I said, art is obviously interpretation for everybody, but there's just that old medieval feel. There's something about that where it's like, I like to feel like I'm taking a trip back in time. I don't really
right.
want to go to the
Or
future.
not even necessarily back in time, but just somewhere else,
Yeah.
right?
I like how
And it.
I like the idea you had with the fairies and saying that they're like they come to this place and they're these people's imaginary friends.
Mm-hmm.
That's a freaking great. That's awesome. I mean, like
Because
that makes
it gets a way for them to interact with people because
yeah.
they don't want to be bored, you know. So and it keeps them kind of knowing what's going on with the town. It's their way of keeping track, making sure that they aren't found out. It all kind of plays together.
I'm already thinking right now that my couple imaginary friends I had was a kid. Maybe that was another thing trying to talk to me from another
Hey,
universe.
could have been.
I love that perspective change on things too. Also, I think the fact of like when I just stopped believing in imaginary friends, it turns into that show Happy, where like there's just a bunch of them sitting like in a therapy session or an anonymous meeting or something, just trying to talk to each other. Like I can't believe he doesn't believe in me anymore. We had
What the
such,
heck?
yeah, right. When you are making your like creations such as like that amazing wonderful puppet with the white eyes that seems like even though he's looking upwards he's still staring at me in the corner, like when you're
Oh.
when you're creating something like that, like what sparks the interest to give him these personality traits? Like where do you find those? Do you find those first before he gets created?
Well, like I said, he was in the comic. Um, so the character itself, I, I try to give characters distinct personalities. I try to give them depth. Usually when I write, one of the things I do is I create a very thorough bio of a character. Like I work out his traits, I work out things that have nothing to do with the story, just so I can flesh him out. Because the more fleshed out he is, the more realistic he is to me, the more consistent I can be with the way he is in my world. Like when you're playing D&D and you create a character. Like honestly, I think character creation a lot of times is more fun than when you're actually playing the game with people.
Yeah, the funnest part is when you're creating the character and then you immediately start like once everything's kind of added in, you give him his traits, his personality things, the
Yeah,
voice pops into your head where it's like
yeah,
he's gonna
yeah,
sound like this. Like you can't, I mean, you could do it jokingly, have a giant guy and have him have like a really high pitched voice or something. But when you were it just makes me smile because the factor of when you were writing that comic, you were drawing that character and creating all of his traits. When you started incorporating them in, you were if you were writing down the words that he was going to say, immediately the voice was also playing into your head to
yes,
what he was
yep.
sounding like. And I was
And
like,
it's important too, like when you're writing a story, that your characters have different personalities. That's one thing I think a lot of stories suffer from is characters are flat and they're like, this is the generic this character, this is the generic that character, and it's hard to connect with characters when there's nothing to them, you know?
it's also the problem with TV shows nowadays. The factor is if they add a character in and he's just blank, you already know that guy's going to be killed off. You're not going to have a connection. I think the
Right.
reason why people read things, the reason why I love have certain TV shows like Game of Thrones or Walking Dead or something is because they pick a character and they bond and they connect to that character
Right.
based on the personality, the actions, whatever roles or things they're trying to do. And it's like that's why when a certain character died on Game of Thrones or something, I've never seen an episode. I probably would enjoy considering I love medieval stuff, but I don't know. I just can't get into it. But I when
It's one of
somebody
those things where there's too much of it now.
yeah, it's like
Like if you'd gotten in at the beginning and gone through it with everybody, it would have been different.
yeah, it's like I mean, I think it was like a year and a half ago or 2 years ago or something. Somebody died on one of the seasons, and then everybody was like little legit crying from it. And I was like, damn, like that is how you know a story had done it right when somebody dies in a TV series and people are literally brought to tears from it.
So what I recommend is wait till the dust settles, wait a little bit longer, and then just at some time when you have binging time, just sit down like and just watch it. I highly recommend it.
Did you see The Walking
It
Dead?
did I see The Walking Dead?
Yes.
I did I did I think I stopped maybe 2 seasons ago.
I stopped about at the fourth season, and then I just skipped and watched what do you call it, where Negan comes out and beats Glenn's head in with a bat.
Yep.
Tapped out there too, dude. I've never gotten sick to my stomach off anything. I was like, oh my God. Like when that happened, I love a show that does something where you think that the main character, this guy's never going to die, and then they just nope, he's gone. It's like what? Like you want to leave it speechless. And when you see with art, when it comes to comics, you can always predict what's going to happen. Um, I I like it when it's changed up. I mean, how
Right.
difficult, like when you're creating something, how do you try and separate yourself from all the others that are out there besides just the unique characters, but with the story?
Um well, I mean, you're influenced by the things that you love. I mean, that's just the way it is as an artist. As I've gone through this particular series, it's called Autumn Gray. I don't even know if I mentioned the title of it. Um, the series is called Autumn Gray, but it's definitely been influenced by a lot of different things. But one thing I find really good with a comic, since it's separate issues, is I can get feedback from people when I complete one issue, which helps steer where I want to go with it. Because a lot of times I like to find out what people think is going on, and because I like to see if I'm steering them in the direction I want to steer them in when actually I'm heading in a different direction, that kind of thing.
A lot of times you got to take a step back from the canvas to be able to really
Right.
enjoy a piece of art. Like if you're spending
It's
hours and hours and hours creating something, eventually you're like, is this
You don't
still
see it the way someone else sees it. Yeah.
yeah, it's like, is this still meaning anything? And then you shoot it off to someone. Someone's like, I think you lost it right about here, or maybe you ever try this. You're like, okay, I took the step back. I got the feedback. I'm able to come back
Right.
and
And
be
I
able to
think a
get
lot of
back in the
TV
flow.
shows do that nowadays too. Like there's been several shows where characters are supposed to be gone and they realize like this actor plays this character, people care about this character too much. They change the story, that there's
Daryl,
something.
for instance, everyone's like, if Daryl dies, we riot. I'm like, oh shit, here we go.
And honestly, in the comic, Daryl never even existed. So
It's, I mean, my favorite character died and then ended up coming back in later, which was Merle, and then they ended up killing him. And when that happened, I was like, I'm done with this show. You brought him back, and then you took him out again. I was like, I can't. I just too many what ifs. I've already lost enough. Santa Claus isn't real. This isn't fair.
No, no, Santa Claus is real. Don't you
He,
tell me he ain't real.
he is real. For all little kids out there, I did not say that. Well, I mean, even when it comes to like creating things too, I mean, what would you consider like one of your kind of downfalls or one of the hardest things that you have to kind of come across? I mean, is it lacking, I guess, the inspiration sometimes? Is it just trying to, because I mean, if you ever heard Stan Lee when he starts talking about his superheroes, he tries to reflect them all with deeper meanings of different parts of himself, like parts like
Right.
the Incredible Hulk that he can't
And in
control.
my stories, I feel like are all self-portraits. Like I feel like Autumn Gray, since it spanned the most amount of time, you can actually see it, like it's almost like a metaphor of my life through the main character of Autumn Gray. Like
Like
I
kind
can
of like an
tell like
evolution
different.
of yourself.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So what exactly, so with the very first, the beginning, what exactly has changed from the beginning onward? Like, what do you start to
Well,
see?
well, in the beginning,
In
there
the beginning, there was nothing.
there was nothing, and then there was a comic book. So the story it's following the tale of this girl Kara Gray who had an imaginary friend growing up, lives right on the edge of the park where everything's dwelling. You know, it's a national park. She lives on the street that runs along parallel with the park. She used to spend her childhood in there with her dad, and her imaginary friend. Um, but so it starts out as kind of like a sweet story about a girl with an imaginary friend, and then it just kind of starts taking a couple of weird turns. Like you start to realize that the homeless guy that lives in the park, he lives under the bridge, is actually eating cats, and he's a troll. You know,
Jesus, hold on a second. How do you go from a sweet park with your dad and an imaginary
exactly.
friend to a homeless guy eating cats under a bridge? Oh my
That's just the
God.
beginning of the iceberg you're gonna hit.
Is this like is there at least 10 or 20 pages in between to where that happens, or is it like page one and then you flip it and there's a homeless
Oh
guy
no,
eating
no,
cats?
there's a slow build
Okay.
to the comic. I'm big into pacing. I've worked with some people that try to cram as much as they can on each page, and I feel like you need breathing space in a story. You
That's
know,
one of the
like
problems with one of my favorite movies that everybody always bitches and complains about, and even the actor that was in it complains about it. Green Lantern. I am a Green Lantern fan.
mhm.
I love that movie only because it's the only superhero movie for Green Lantern that is out, basically. And I think they just rushed it. It seemed like it should have been spread evenly a little bit more.
Yeah, the pacing was off, and I think it came out too soon. I think like the boom in the comic book world wasn't ready to handle a Green Lantern movie the way it should at
Yeah.
that point.
And
And
when it
I think they'll do something new with it. I'm sure they will.
And when it comes to like the pacing and stuff too, what do you consider is the best? Like, do you consider like trying to keep just the basics of the story, really just trying to enthrall the reader, like an M. Night Shyamalan film? Like, those are really good because of the story. And then there's these subtle drops and subtle moments that really capture the attention. I feel like everything nowadays is just boom, bang, all these giant explosions or something that's involved in a sci-fi, which is just like you're just throwing explosions and stuff, capturing the reader's attention. But what really impresses me is when I come across a story where I'm reading it and I'm like, fuck, I'm actually in it for the story. I'm not even in it
Right.
for if there's an
Well,
explosion,
you
sure, but
know, if you're in it for this, I think contrast is key. I think a story needs to have places where you get comfortable, places where you relax, and then places that grab you by the stomach and squeeze, you know?
yeah.
So you need to have, I think you need like, the explosion, but it doesn't mean anything if you don't let the person, like, let it sneak up on them. Let it,
Like the opening scene for Up. They made you feel for that couple, and then they took the woman away, and then you
Yes,
just were
and they
left with the.
killed, they destroyed you. Yes.
I have
And then
never
you spend the
cried.
rest of the movie trying to pick up the pieces with the guy who's trying to pick up the pieces.
You need therapy. You just like afterwards, you're like, I don't know what happened. It was
Yes, my
going
wife
so
told me
good.
she hates me for having watched that movie with me.
Now, how do you go from all right? So now we're at homeless man eating cats. Where do you go from here? Because that's a strong pull.
All right, I don't want to give away too much, but so you find out this homeless guy is the only other one who seems to be talking to this imaginary friend. So all right, so he knows the same imaginary friend that this you conceded that this girl has an imaginary friend, but now this friend also speaks to this homeless guy in the park. So maybe this imaginary friend is just something in between, you know?
Ooh, okay, I like that.
Um, then you introduce a character like Simon, who arrives as a little old man. He uses a glamour to appear as a person, and he's, you know, checking out the park, seeing who knows who. You know, he's basically
Yeah.
getting his intel before he decides that this girl, since she's connected to this imaginary friend, is a good way to get into the fairy monster side of the park. So he uses her as like his gateway.
Oh shit, dude. This is reminding me what's that freaking game that came out? What's why I love the Telltale series. Not for like the Walking Dead game too, but there was have you ever seen A Wolf Among Us?
Yes, I
Where
love the
they
Fable series. Yeah, that comic series is great.
that completely changed the story for me for Big Bad Wolf. All these
Yep,
other types of things, giving them different personalities, them trying to have a new relationship into the human world and trying
yep.
to, play different roles, him being a cop and everything. Like,
Fable was actually introduced to me after I had started writing this. Someone's like, "You got to read Fable," like because it's the whole idea of supernatural hiding in the human world. You know?
well, we're looking for ways to connect, and like with Marvel, what they did, like with the Incredible Hulk was supposed to be a man that holds a lot of inner rage and aggression and all these other types of things, and it's like when they did that, like it's the same thing with old folk stories, people that are longing for something, like Ariel the mermaid longing for love and wanting to be human, to be
Yeah.
and doing whatever they possibly could to get there. Like that was we need to find a way to connect, and that's what
Right.
art is
That's why
for.
someone like Spider-Man is so popular. I mean, he's a geeky kid, and I mean, most of the people that were reading comics were geeky kids. They were like, I can be Spider-Man, you know?
Tobey Maguire, the best Spider-Man ever, I always say, because of the fact of he was like 30 and he made you think he was like 18 years old in high school. That bullying scene hit way too close to home for me. I was like, oh,
Yeah,
fuck, man.
I
Like,
totally agree. Totally agree. Now,
now,
I know the diehard MCU people will fight me on that, but
don't
I really think that
Th- don't even. Tobey Maguire is Spider-Man. Tom Holland, no, no, no. And then if you even toss out Andrew Garfield, it's like you don't even have a seat at the table right now. Like, what are you even
right,
talking about?
right.
That was, if you want to talk about a story that was rushed, he is a better interpretation, I think, of what Peter Parker is. But I think like the way that he was a little bit and how this
He
story
was
kind of
harder to
was.
connect with.
Yeah, and
He was
that's what people
inconsistent.
need. We need that connection. It's the same thing
Yeah.
when like I'm looking at your comics and stuff, or I'm looking at your art on your Instagram page. I'm looking at it. I'm like, holy shit! Like I'm connecting with it because I like that medieval factor. I like the old school things. And then you obviously I see some of the stuff you put on there, like you had Tony Stark with the Infinity uh,
Yeah,
gems.
those are commissions. Yeah,
Yeah,
I try to avoid doing like direct fan art. Um, I mean, I'll do it for fun, but in general, like I'm more of a I like to create my own ideas.
Yeah, I mean, it's also like if you're trying to mimic something, it's very hard for you to put your own little edge into it, your own little flavor into it.
Right.
It's so much easier to be like, I'm just going to create this from scratch. But the crappy part is the reason to get a lot of attention, especially on Instagram, is to do something like that to where the point people are like,
Yes.
oh, I know what that is, double tap. And then they want to follow you and stuff. It's
Yeah.
harder to create something from your brain and get a lot of people focused in on it.
Right. When I started doing Comic Cons, I struggled with that all the time because I'd be next to somebody who draws Spider-Man, Superman, Batman, all that kind of stuff, and people recognize that, so they'll stop there and buy things, and then they walk by my table, and I got Simon and monsters and dragons and things, and they're just like, they don't connect the same way at a Comic-Con.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you've looked at any of my cosplaying fairies artwork.
I've seen, I think, a few.
I have about 80 of them at this point. What I did was, I didn't want to draw fan art for Comic-Cons. I didn't want to be selling fan art. So I decided, well, since my comics and stuff are about fairies and monsters, why don't I have fairies or monsters cosplaying as superheroes?
That's a good one.
So I mean, I got, and funny enough, my most popular ones are my serial killers, my Jason Voorhees fairy, my Freddy fairy, my Michael Myers fairy.
Stuff that people already know what it is and have seen it or have. I mean, there's podcasts like a podcast on Elm Street. Shout out to those guys. They do, it's literally like a Nightmare on Elm Street, but it's just movie reviews. But it's the
Mhm.
name. People love that name. They love feeling like,
Right,
oh, I
right.
know what this is. The same reason why Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, all these other things, they're so popular, superheroes and everything. People are relating to it and connecting to it because it's just so trendy right now.
Right, they recognize it. They don't have to, you don't have to sell them on it. They just see it and they're like, I know that, I want that.
Yeah.
So I created what I call my con art, which are my cosplaying fairies. If you go to my website, I have a huge file full of them. You can see them in my Facebook album. I got them all over the place. I started by just doing a couple of them on my own, and then they were all commissioned. Like, people at conventions all the time, they're like, "Oh, I want a fairy of this character." I'm like, "Okay," and I'll make it, and then it gets added to the gallery.
I think it's probably one of the reasons why, like, with Jeff, for instance, where he chose you and he loves your art, is because of the fact of a big thing for Jeff was comics. He
Yeah,
loved reading those and growing up on those types of things. And when you're creating a style too, I mean, everybody is seeing the same thing. Everybody wants to get like a high paying dollar for some trendy or new thing. I'm like, I want to see something different. I want to see somebody that is coming up or somebody that's creating things that's just not getting a lot of attention because they want to do it in their own way. They want to do
right.
their own thing, their own image. I mean, I wish that was way more popular, but
I wish more people were like you.
it's the whole factor of like, I will be more than happy to pay for something that is original, that is the own artist interpretation. Same reason why if I ever go to Chipotle, like I said, I'm telling the guy, make me the sandwich, is because I want to see your style, your interpretation of it. I've
Right,
seen the same shit. I've seen Rick and Morty. I've seen Charizard. I've seen all these other things, all these superhero Marvel Universe characters redone in different ways. It's interesting, but at the same time, can I get something that is different? Something that's going to hit me with like, oh, this person created this, like the Blue Beetle or any of those side superheroes that don't have a movie because they just weren't the trendy one. They didn't make it at the
right.
time. Sometimes it's how you advertise. Sometimes it's this. And I'm like,
Sometimes it's timing. Yeah,
yeah,
it's all different.
what would you consider seeing yourself? Like, what do you want to see as the end goal with this? Like with the comic book, do you want to try and get it out there like a major publisher? Or do you want to try and get like, I mean, have you thought about newspapers or something, just giving like a snippet or, going to more comic cons and trying to show people this?
Well, with Autumn Gray in particular, I'm 2 issues away from having a complete book. Right now, I have a trade of 1 through 5, and then single issues after that. But I'd like to create like the hardcover bound
Yeah.
book of the whole thing. I'd
That's a
like to.
big thing for me, is the hardcover, that type thing. I have one
Yeah.
of the first comics I ever read was a Kiss comic, but my dad ended up buying the book where it's like a whole thing, but it's made with it's like a biography and stuff. It's made with their blood as the ink, but it's a hardcover. Nothing beats a fucking hardcover,
Oh, I
dude.
got most of my. I love buying the big hardcover collections of comics. And I was gonna do a hardcover for 1 through 5, and I was like, you know what? I'll just do the straight up trade book for 1 through 5. Um, and when I finish the whole story, I want like the tome.
Have you ever thought about maybe incorporating or collabing with another artist? Maybe trying to get maybe your character put into another comic as like a guest appearance, just to get more people attracted to your own.
So most comics that I've done for other people in crowd scenes, I've thrown my characters in the crowds. Just I'm like, oh, I got to draw a bunch of people. Okay, here's Kara from my comic, and here's Simon, his little old man standing next to
Shameless
her.
plugs, shameless plugs.
They just want people, so there they are. They're people. Um, Actually, I have right now a comic, a spin-off of this comic series. It takes place after the whole thing, with some of the similar characters, same premise, different place, different things going on. But I have a different. I'm not the artist on the project. I'm just going in as just the writer, because I realized um, writing a comic takes about as much time as drawing one page of the comic.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm never going to get all this whole bookshelf of stories. I'm never going to get them all out if I do them all myself. So I need to find people with styles that I like, that I can work with, and start
Yeah,
getting more
it's not
things
even
out there.
just the styles that they like. It's more, or the styles that you like. It's more of the fact of trying to find someone you connect with.
Right. That can tell the story the right way.
You know how fucking hard it has to be to find a artist that is like somebody you can vibe with? That has
Right.
got to be so difficult because everybody has their own picture in their head. And it's like, where can we find an even ground? It's all about, no, this is mine. I'm going to run it this way and we're going to do it like this. It's so hard to get. It's like trying to move in with someone after knowing them for like a week. Like, you don't know if you guys are even going to vibe yet.
Right. Right. Well, one of the advantages I actually have is, since I've been the artist for a lot of projects, I know what I like from the writer. So when I approach an artist, like I picked out the artist for this project. We're putting together our pitch right now. We're going to be pitching to a couple of big publishers with it. Um, I know how much of a structure I should give him, and how much leeway I should give him, so he can have fun drawing it.
Yeah.
Because one of the key things is, I want him to want to do it. I don't want to just, here's your money, thank you. I want to find. It's hard to find an artist that can be as excited about your story as you are.
Well, it's a lot about like what people complain about, people pushing that barrier or that line. I think, if I was going to offer you, say I was a giant major corporation or a comic book like Marvel, offering you a spot to be able to do your story. But once you accepted that, it'd be awesome because you'd be out there. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know if Simon should be like this. Maybe we could turn Simon pink. Maybe we could do this. And then eventually you start saying yes and yes and yes. And that line gets so pushed. It's the whole reason why,
Right.
if you heard about Joe Rogan and Spotify, he just signed a contract deal that was just being able to, just no rights to his podcast, just a signed contract to be on their label, only on the factor of they're not telling him how to run his show. They're not adding anything. They're not doing anything. I think the one question they asked was like, what's your next guest? And he's like, let that be the only question you're going to ask. Because once you start letting that line in and letting them push that barrier, you're losing the initial thing of why you
You
started in the first
right.
place.
You're losing it. It's becoming theirs and not yours.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like I've thought long and hard about, like, I've a couple people in high places in a couple of big companies that have taken my books and giving them to CEOs and things like that, and I'm always thinking, like, what would I need to have in a contract in order to accept some kind of an offer? What would what would work for me? Where would I have to draw the line if they were going to accept? You know,
I've heard so many people, like I know Bill Burr has a story of like he went into co-production with this company and then it ended up being like him getting like him doing 60% of the payments and them doing only 40%. And it was like a whole factor of like he got tricked and he was like, he gave the best advice. He was just like, running on your own. The only person that should be involved in it or creative of it or have power over it, over your creation, your idea should be yourself. And once you sell those rights away, and
right?
it
And that's the one
sucks.
thing I've always thought about. Like, I need to have, like, in any contract, I need to have not only my name on it. I need to have basically writing executive power, like to be able to say no, that can't happen. You know, ultimately, like I
Yeah.
need to have
Well, it's
control
like
to
if you look at any artist that sells their song to a corporation or to a company, it starts off what good songs on a garage band with the actual feel, and then eventually it's just the money. You might love to get $1 million right up front and be able to have this full production, full style, full amazing studio, do whatever you want with, well, have any capability, any resource you want, in a contract immediately offered
right.
right now to you. But what's going to happen in a year? Wouldn't you eventually want to get the same thing? It's just going to take a lot longer to get there, but do it in your own style and watch it grow. I feel like that one's way more beneficial because eventually you're going
Right.
to be creating something, and then you see all these artists that walk away from their initial creation, and they just get some guy that can mimic the same thing to hop in for the same deal.
Right. It's tricky because there's also the appeal of if you can get that one thing. All right, you sell out that one thing, you get the money now, and your name is out there. Now people are going to pay a lot more attention to you with your thing. The key is with that kind of thing, if you are going to hand over something like that, is you got to make sure it's set up so that everybody knows it's yours. At least so your name is out there. Like say Marvel decided to buy Autumn Gray, but they wanted to completely change it. As long if I had the ability to of still writing control and it was like Jay Moores's Autumn Gray, something like that. So like everybody knows Walking Dead, Kirkman, his name is always there
Yeah.
with Walking Dead. So now even if Walking Dead is I don't know how it stands with the writing of the TV show, if it's he's lost control of it and it's other people or whatever, it's still the fact that I know that's the name from Walking Dead.
Yeah. You want, you
Now
would,
he could do anything because he is Kirkman from Walking Dead.
yeah.
You know,
Even I get that side.
it's tricky. There's a balance. There's a balance there. If you're going to sign up with somebody, you really have to think, what advantages am I getting by handing over some of this control?
Yeah, like it's all about finding, we say, people to connect with. The reason why I
Right.
think it works for him is because of, it's run by what's his name, Kevin James, or no, is it Kevin Smith? I think it's Kevin Smith, the guy who does Jay and Silent Bob. That's Walking Dead is his thing. That whole style thing. They just got multiple people directing different seasons of stuff, and when
Right.
it comes to that, that's an even keel dude. When you come in a lot into corporations and people in the world, they don't, a lot of people that are at Comic Cons looking for comic book people, like, you want to be signed on to this, I can help produce your thing. Yeah, they might be good at what they do, but at the same time, a lot of the time they're not truthful. A lot of the times they're
Right.
going to slip
Yeah.
something in a contract where you end up getting fucked.
Oh yeah. You have to, unlike your terms and conditions that you always click accept on your websites when
Without
you
reading it.
do stuff. That kind of thing, you definitely need to make sure you're paying attention. Same thing, like I always tell people when they're posting stuff on Facebook, and I post stuff on Facebook too, but you have to bear in mind Facebook has the right to use that image as soon as you put it on Facebook.
I mean, just from hearing Autumn Gray, Jay, I mean, that sounds like something I definitely want to read. You're going to have to send me the link to wherever that's at.
Sure, sure. Actually, I have a stack of them next to me here. I can even like wave them in front of the camera if you
Yeah,
want.
do that. I want to see what the cover art for it
All right.
is.
Well, this is the trade of 1 through 5.
Oh, shit. I like it.
And I'll just do a quick flip in there.
Oh,
So
look at the pages, dude. I can already tell it's going to be a good one. I like that.
So in the trade, it's in color. The single issues are all black and white. So the appeal to the trade is I actually colored it, but I kept the colors muted so it still had that grayscale feel to it.
Yeah.
And then, so this is the brand new one. This is the one that's on Indiegogo right now, actually. The one that I did while I was on quarantine from the COVID. So this is issue 8. Actually, this print is actually a little light,
Looks like
but
COVID wasn't a total loss. We got some good art coming out
oh,
of it.
I got 2 comic books and a children's book done while I was on lockdown from COVID.
What's the children's book called?
It's called I'm Not Afraid. It's actually about like it's a book for children to kind of learn what's going on with the COVID thing,
Okay.
like why we're wearing the masks, why people are quarantined for 2 weeks, that kind of thing.
A good explanation of it. I like it.
Sorry, I just
It's a good explanation. I like it. I think that's definitely gonna. It's I mean, something that's gonna be in our history now. It's definitely gonna be taught in schools. This whole situation that we survived. I always joked about 2012. I would just tell my kids that it was actually like how the movie is. We actually survived that.
Right.
But I mean, it's amazing. I love your art, dude. I think what you're doing is amazing. I want to give you here a minute at the end to kind of be able to plug your show. By show, I mean your awesome creations that are literally like a movie with that type of art that you're drawing. That's some talent right there, man. So please plug where people can find your comics, people can find your artwork, your Instagram page, everything.
Sure. Well, you can always find me on Facebook, or Instagram is Mooers, JayMooers, like it says in the little box in the corner of my screen here. Um, it's a funny spelling of Moors, but you can find me on Facebook, Instagram that way. Right now, I have a campaign on Indiegogo. You can catch up on Autumn Gray. The link for that, you just go on Indiegogo and either type in Autumn Gray or Jay Moores, and it will pop up. I also have on my publishing website is called Eden Park Tales. You go to www.edenparktales, TALES, and .com, and that's you can check out all my different books there, my novels. I have a lot of artwork there. You can buy prints. It's kind of like if you were visiting my table at a Comic-Con, except on a website.
Got a wide selection. Wide selection.
Oh yeah, a whole bunch of stuff.
Appealing to the eyes. I like it. Well, thank you so much. And I'll make sure I link all your links, everything in the description, so people listening to this can find it and be able to click on it and go to your work as well, be able to purchase some of your fine comics and
Well, thank you
stories of
very much.
homeless people eating cats. I'm already hooked.
I knew that would sell you.
And thank you so much for listening to this episode Out of the Blank podcast, and stay tuned for our next episode.